So let me tell you about my job, because it is exactly as glamorous as it sounds. My name is Krev. I have 3 degrees in xenobiology, and I spend my days cataloging things that would absolutely love to eat me if given half a chance. I work at the Galactic Apex Predator Preserve on Station Omega-7, which is basically a zoo for nightmare fuel, except we call it an educational research facility, because that makes the funding committee feel better about themselves. The preserve is the galaxy's premier collection of apex predators from across known space. We have 47 species currently, each one the undisputed murder champion of its respective ecosystem. We have the crystalline mangler from Kepler 442b, which is invisible in 14 different light spectrums and hunts by echolocation. We have the sulfuric devourer from the ammonia seas of Proxima Station, which can liquefy tungsten with its digestive spray. We even have a Theta-class void stalker, which technically does not exist in our dimensional phase, but will absolutely ruin your day if you make the mistake of perceiving it. Why do we keep all these delightful murder machines in one convenient location, you ask? Well, because the galaxy has become civilized. And by civilized, I mean soft. Most species have not encountered a genuine predator in thousands of years. We have evolved past all that messy survival of the fittest business. And now we live in temperature-controlled habitats, where the biggest daily threat is whether the protein synthesizer might be on the fritz again. But the Galactic Council, in their infinite wisdom, decided that we should not forget where we came from. We should remember what actual danger looks like, what it means to be hunted, what separates an apex predator from everything else on the food chain. Hence, the Preserve, a living museum of lethality, a collection of the galaxy's most efficient killing machines, all safely contained behind force fields and monitored 24/7 by people like me, who are paid just enough to justify the existential dread. My specific job is to document new acquisitions and maintain the behavioral profiles of our existing residents. This means I spend a lot of time watching things kill other things, taking notes, and trying not to think too hard about the fact that I am separated from becoming a protein shake by approximately 3 redundant security systems and a hope that nobody trips over the wrong power cable. Now, you might be wondering what kind of creature qualifies as an apex predator by galactic standards. The criteria are actually quite strict. First, the species must be from a death world, which is a delightful term we use for planets where the environment is actively trying to kill you at all times. Second, the creature must be the uncontested top of its food chain, not just a predator, but the predator. Third, it must demonstrate what we call adaptive lethality, which is a fancy way of saying it can figure out new and creative ways to murder you if the old ways stop working. These are not just animals. These are evolution's greatest hits, the absolute peak of predatory development. Every single resident in this facility represents millions of years of natural selection, creating the perfect hunter for its environment. Which brings me to the moment everything changed. The moment when Administrator Tholna walked into my office with that expression that immediately told me my life was about to get significantly more complicated. Administrator Tholna is a Velopian, which means she has 4 arms, compound eyes, and the perpetually harried expression of someone who has had to file incident reports for 47 different ways station personnel almost died this quarter. She is very good at her job, which unfortunately means she is always finding new and exciting ways to expand our collection of things that want to kill us. Krev, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk, with that particular posture that meant I was not going to like what came next. We have acquired 2 new specimens from a recently contacted death world. I looked up from my datapad, where I had been documenting the crystalline mangler's recent discovery that it could vibrate at a frequency that caused migraines in most of the observation staff. Another death world? Administrator, we have been over this. The containment budget is already stretched thin after the sulfuric devourer incident. Yes, she made that clicking sound with her mandibles that meant she was about to ignore my very reasonable objection. The Galactic Council has designated this as a priority acquisition. The planet is called Earth, and it is classified as a Category 9 death world. I will give her credit. That made me pay attention. Category 9 is the second highest classification. That is the level where the planet has multiple overlapping extinction-level threat systems. We are talking about worlds where the weather can kill you, the geology can kill you, the chemistry can kill you, and that is before you even get to the actual fauna. What are they? I asked. Armor plating? Venom glands? Please tell me they at least have some kind of natural weaponry so I can write a decent behavioral profile. Tholna pulled up a holo display, and I found myself looking at 2 of the most aggressively unremarkable creatures I had ever seen. They were bipedal, which was common enough. Bilaterally symmetrical, also standard. No visible armor, no claws, no fangs worth mentioning, no venom sacs, no natural camouflage, and absolutely nothing that screamed apex predator to anyone with functioning sensory organs. These are humans, Thulna said, like that explained anything. These are what now? Humans. They are the dominant species on Earth. We acquired 2 specimens through a cultural exchange program. They volunteered. I stared at the display. One of the humans was a male, apparently named Jake, with brown hair and the kind of relaxed posture that suggested he had no idea what he had just signed up for. The other was a female named Priya, who had dark hair tied back in a practical manner, and was currently examining her surroundings with what I would later learn to recognize as professional curiosity. Thulna, I said slowly. These creatures look like they would lose a fight with a stiff breeze. What exactly makes them apex predators? They are from a Category 9 death world, she repeated, like that was sufficient explanation. Yes, but look at them. No claws, no venom. Their skin looks like it would tear if you sneezed on it too hard. They do not even have a proper pelt for temperature regulation. What do they hunt with? Harsh language? Thulna's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The preliminary reports indicate they are tool users. Quite sophisticated ones, actually. They have achieved spaceflight, complex social structures, and apparently they have domesticated several other predator species on their planet. Tool users. I looked at the humans again, trying to find anything impressive about them. Administrator, the Velopian cliff scramblers use tools. They are not apex predators. They are lunch for anything with proper dentition. The Council has made their decision, Krev. The humans will be housed in Habitat 17. I need you to prepare the documentation and begin behavioral observations immediately. And that is how I found myself standing in front of Habitat 17, watching 2 confused humans being escorted into what we had hastily converted into a reasonable facsimile of Earth's temperate forest biome. Jake was carrying some kind of primitive bag over his shoulder. Priya was asking questions about the local flora that our containment staff absolutely could not answer. They did not look dangerous. They looked lost. Like someone had accidentally delivered the wrong species and nobody had bothered to check the candor. Shipping manifest. I pulled up my documentation interface and began typing. Subject species, humans. Origin, Earth. Threat assessment, pending. Initial observations. Subjects appear confused about containment protocols. No visible natural weaponry. Survival prognosis, poor. I had no idea how wrong I was about to be. The thing about observing apex predators is that you develop a sense for danger. You learn to recognize the signs. The way a crystalline mangler goes perfectly still before it strikes. The subtle shift in a void stalker's dimensional frequency when it has identified prey. The focused intensity of a creature that knows exactly what it is and what it does best. The humans did not have any of that. What they had was a concerning amount of enthusiasm for their new surroundings. Oh wow, you guys actually got the understory vegetation right, Priya said, kneeling down to examine some of the plant life we had synthesized based on Earth's botanical database. These are Brodea. They are edible, you know. The bulbs are pretty nutritious if you cook them properly. Jake was already walking the perimeter of the habitat, which I suppose was sensible behavior for a contained specimen. Except he was not looking for weaknesses in the containment field. He was examining the trees, testing branches for weight-bearing capacity, and nodding to himself like he was mentally cataloging everything. Hey Priya, he called out. Check it out. They included Douglas fir. That is perfect for making friction fires if we need to. Why would we need to make fires? Priya asked, still examining plants. The environmental controls are maintaining a steady 20 degrees Celsius. I mean, yeah, but what if they malfunction? Always good to have a backup plan. I added to my notes. Subjects demonstrate concerning preparedness for scenarios that have not occurred. Possible paranoia or survival instinct. Further observation required. Grix, one of our security officers, was standing next to me at the observation window. Grix is a Thoraxian, which means he is roughly the size and shape of an angry boulder with too many limbs. He is also profoundly unimpressed by most things. This is what required the upgraded containment protocols? Grix rumbled, watching Jake pull out what appeared to be a primitive cutting tool from his bag. They looked like they would have trouble opening a standard ration pack. Administrator's orders, I said. Category 9 Death World protocols. Waste of resources. Look at them. They are practically designing their own habitat improvements. He was not wrong. Over the next several hours, the humans had essentially redecorated. Jake had constructed what he called a lean-to, using fallen branches and some broad leaves, which apparently was a primitive shelter. Priya had identified no fewer than 7 edible plant species, and started explaining their nutritional content to Jake like she was giving a lecture. Then Jake made fire, not with any advanced technology, not with a plasma lighter or chemical ignition system. He took 2 sticks, some dried plant fiber, and about 15 minutes of focused effort, and created actual combustion through friction alone. Did he just... Grix began, his vocal synthesizer struggling with the concept. Did that soft-skinned creature just create fire with wood? Apparently, I said, frantically taking notes. This is not normal behavior for contained specimens. Most species would be stressed, attempting escape, or at minimum showing signs of distress at being removed from their natural environment. They are treating it like a vacation, Grix observed. He was absolutely right. Priya had joined Jake by the fire, and they were roasting some of the Brodea bulbs she had collected. They were having a conversation about something called trail mix, and whether the preserve staff might be willing to provide some if they asked nicely. The fire is unnecessary, I said, more to myself than to Grix. The habitat provides perfectly adequate temperature regulation. They are creating potential hazards for no survival-related reason. Maybe they are cold? Grix suggested. Their thermal scans indicate they are well within comfortable range for their biology. No, they are doing this because they want to. They are making fire for entertainment purposes. Over the next few days, it only got stranger. The humans began what Priya called improving the habitat. They constructed a raised platform in one of the trees, which Jake explained was for better visibility and air circulation. They created a primitive water filtration system using rocks and sand, even though the habitat provided perfectly clean water through standard dispensers. They even started a small garden, planting some of the edible species in organized rows. This is not predator behavior, I told Administrator Tholna during our weekly briefing. Apex predators do not garden. They do not build elaborate sleeping platforms. They hunt, they eat, they sleep. They maintain territory. These humans are engaging in complex environmental modification that serves no immediate survival purpose. Tholna's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps that is what makes them apex predators on a Category 9 death world. Adaptability. The ability to modify their environment, rather than simply exist within it. With respect. Administrator, that is what we call engineering, not predation. Perhaps on Earth, she said. There is not much difference. I did not have a good answer for that. So I went back to my observations. Watching Jake teach Priya how to identify trees by their bark texture, watching Priya explain something about tidal pools and marine ecosystems, while gesturing enthusiastically at the habitat's small water feature. They looked harmless. They looked friendly. They looked about as dangerous as a well-organized camping trip. I should have known better. The galaxy does not produce Category 9 death worlds by accident, and it certainly does not produce apex predators that survive them by being harmless. I was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The alarm started at 0347 station time, which is the time of night when everyone with any sense is either asleep or pretending to be. I was in my quarters, having a perfectly reasonable dream about a beach on Velocia Prime where nothing was trying to eat me, when my comm unit started screaming about a code black in Sector 7. Code black. Containment failure. Full facility lockdown. I made it to the command center in under 3 minutes, which is impressive considering I had to put on actual pants. The scene inside was controlled chaos, which is the polite way of saying everyone was panicking but trying to look professional about it. Report. Administrator Tholna snapped at the security chief, all 4 of her arms working different control panels simultaneously. Varathian Shredder, the chief said, and I watched the color drain from every face in the room that had enough biology to change colors. Primary containment failed during scheduled maintenance. The creature breached secondary containment 7 minutes ago. It has neutralized 3 security teams and is currently moving through the auxiliary corridor network. For those of you fortunate enough to never have encountered a Varathian Shredder, let me paint you a picture. Imagine something that looks like a bipedal lizard had a terrible accident with a blender and decided to get revenge on the entire concept of living things. Now make it invisible across most standard visual spectrums. Now give it reflexes fast enough to dodge plasma fire. Now make it angry, because Varathian Shredders are always angry. That is their default emotional state. They are from a Category 10 death world, which means their planet makes Category 9 worlds look like pleasant retirement communities. Varathians evolved in an environment where literally everything was trying to kill them at all times, and they responded by becoming the most efficient close-quarters killers in known space. They hunt by sensing electromagnetic fields, which means hiding does not work. They have retractable claws that can punch through standard combat armor, and they are absolutely relentless once they identify prey. We keep one at the preserve because the Galactic Council believes in completeness, and also because they are clinically insane. Current location? Tholna demanded. Sector 4, moving toward the habitat wings, the chief replied. It is already adapted to our containment countermeasures. Every trap we deploy, it learns from. It is like the thing is studying us while it hunts. Evacuation status? All non-essential personnel are being moved to the secure bunker. Essential staff are maintaining their positions. But I have to tell you, Administrator, If that thing reaches the habitat wing, we are looking at a catastrophic loss of specimens. Most of our residents are not equipped to handle a Varathian. I pulled up the facility map on my datapad, tracking the shredder's progress, and felt my internal organs try to relocate somewhere safer. The creature was heading directly toward Habitat 17. The humans. "We need to override the habitat locks," I said, probably louder than necessary. "Get the humans out of there now!" The security chief shook his head. "Lockdown protocol. All habitats are sealed until the threat is contained. If we start opening doors, we create more breach points. Standard procedure. Standard procedure assumes our specimens can defend themselves." I shot back. "The humans have no natural armor, no weapons, nothing. They are going to be torn apart." Tholna's mandibles were clicking rapidly, which meant she was running through scenarios faster than I could speak. "How long until we can override?" "Minimum 8 minutes to bypass the lockdown safeties." I pulled up the shredder's tracking data. "It will reach Habitat 17 in 4. The command center went very quiet. Everyone was doing the math, and everyone was reaching the same conclusion. We were about to watch 2 members of a newly contacted species get turned into component parts by one of the galaxy's most efficient killing machines, and there was absolutely nothing we could do about it. I switched my datapad to the Habitat 17 observation feed, because apparently I hate myself and wanted to watch the nightmare in real time. Jake and Priya were asleep in their lean-to shelter. The fire burned down to glowing embers. They looked peaceful, comfortable, completely unaware that several hundred pounds of invisible murder lizard was about to crash their camping trip. "I am sorry," I said quietly, to no one in particular. "This should not have happened. You volunteered for cultural exchange, not this." Tholna placed one of her hands on my shoulder. "It is not your fault, Krev. Containment failures are always a risk in this facility." "They did not even know they were in danger," I said. "They thought they were guests. They were making gardens and roasting vegetables and being so aggressively harmless, and now, the habitat feed flickered. The environmental sensors started registering unusual movement patterns. The Varathian shredder had entered Habitat 17. I could see it on the thermal imaging, a heat signature moving with predatory grace between the trees. It was in hunting mode, completely silent, absolutely lethal. It had identified the human's shelter and was approaching in a wide arc, using the terrain to mask its electromagnetic signature. Jake sat up suddenly, just sat straight up like someone had called his name. "Priya," he said quietly, "wake up. We have company." And that is when everything I thought I knew about apex predators got thrown directly into a waste recycling unit. Priya was awake instantly, which should have been my first clue that maybe I had misjudged these creatures. Most species take several seconds to transition from sleep to alertness. Priya went from unconscious to fully operational in the time it took me to blink. "What is it?" she whispered, and I noticed she was already moving, already shifting into a low crouch that somehow made her harder to see, even though she had not actually gone anywhere. "Something big," Jake said quietly, his eyes scanning the dark habitat. "Moving through the trees at 2 o'clock. I can hear it displacing air. Whatever it is trying to be quiet, which means it is hunting." In the command center, Grix leaned forward. "How does he know? The shredder is functionally silent. Even our audio sensors are barely picking it up." I did not have an answer, because I was too busy watching Jake stand up slowly and move to the remains of their campfire. He grabbed a long branch they had been using as a poker and stirred the embers, bringing them back to life. Then he started adding dry leaves and small twigs, building the fire back up. "Creating light to see the threat," I muttered, making notes. "Intelligent response to an invisible predator. Except the shredder does not hunt by sight," the security chief said. "The light will not help them." But Jake was not using the fire for light. He was creating smoke. Thick, billowing smoke that started filling the habitat, rising up into the trees, spreading through the understory vegetation. And where the smoke moved, it outlined something. Something large, and decidedly not plant-based, moving through the haze. "Oh, that is clever," Tholna breathed. "He is using particulate matter to track the creature's movement through air displacement." Jake and Priya could see it now, a vaguely humanoid shape moving through the smoke about 30 meters away. The Varathian shredder realized it had been detected and did what Varathians do best when stealth fails. It charged. "They are going to die," Grix said flatly. "They have no weapons, no armor, and that thing can cover 30 meters in under 2 seconds. But Priya was already moving to the small garden plot they had created, pulling up one of the longer bamboo-like plants they had been cultivating. She grabbed Jake's primitive cutting tool and started working on the bamboo with quick, efficient movements. "What is she doing?" someone in the command center asked. "Making a spear," I said, recognition dawning. She is weaponizing the habitat. It took her maybe 15 seconds. 15 seconds to strip the bamboo, sharpen one end to a wicked point using a rock, and transform a decorative plant into something that our own security scanners were now classifying as a viable weapon. The shredder was closing fast, a blur of motion through the smoke. Jake had grabbed another branch from the fire, a burning makeshift torch, and positioned himself at an angle to Priya. They were not standing together. They were creating a kill zone with overlapping fields of engagement. They are using pack hunting tactics, the security chief said, and I could hear the disbelief in his voice. Coordinated positions, divided attention vectors, complementary weapon systems. That is military doctrine. That is camping trip doctrine, I corrected, watching in fascination. I think this is just what they do. The Varathian burst from the smoke, claws extended, moving faster than most species could even track. It went for Jake first, probably calculating he was the greater threat with the fire. It made a mistake. Jake sidestepped at the last possible second, a movement so precise it looked rehearsed, and shoved the burning branch directly into the creature's face. The shredder recoiled, its electromagnetic senses overloaded by the sudden heat signature, and turned directly into Priya's spear. She had braced it against a tree, angled perfectly, and let the creature's own momentum do the work. The bamboo punched through the shredder's natural armor like it was designed for exactly this purpose. Which, I suppose, it was, just not by us. The Varathian shrieked, a sound I had never heard one make before because Varathians do not shriek. They do not show pain. They do not acknowledge injury. They are supposed to be the ultimate killing machines, emotionless engines of predation. But this one was shrieking, because it had just learned a very important lesson about Earth's apex predators. They do not need natural weapons. They make them. They do not need armor. They make shelters. They do not need to be the fastest or the strongest. They just need to be smart enough to make you wish you had never tried to eat them in the first place. Jake moved in while the creature was pinned, grabbed another sharpened bamboo stake. Priya had apparently prepared earlier because of course she had, and finished the job with the kind of calm efficiency that suggested this was not even in his top 10 most stressful camping experiences. The command center was dead silent. We were watching the thermal feed of two humans standing over the corpse of one of the galaxy's most feared predators, and they were having a conversation about whether the meat was safe to eat. The musculature looks dense, Priya was saying, examining the body with professional interest. Probably tough, but if we slow roast it over the fire, the collagen should break down. Could be quite nutritious. I mean, waste not, want not, Jake agreed, already dragging the body toward their campfire. Plus, we should probably figure out if anything else is getting loose. Might be a long night. Grix turned to look at me. Did those soft-skinned tool users just kill a Varathian shredder and decide to eat it? Yes, I said, because my brain had apparently given up on processing reality and decided to just accept whatever was happening. Yes, they did. With a stick, Grix continued. They killed a Varathian with a sharpened stick and fire. Technically 2 sticks, I corrected, and coordinated pack tactics, and environmental, manipulation, and apparently zero concern about the psychological trauma of fighting for their lives against an invisible murder lizard. Administrator Tholna was already on the comm to the security teams. Stand down from Habitat 17. The threat has been neutralized. By the humans. No, I am not joking. Yes, I know how that sounds. Just get medical down there to check on them. I looked back at the observation feed. Jake and Priya had the Varathian butchered and spitted over the fire, and they were sitting there like they were at a beach barbecue, discussing the proper internal temperature for cooking unfamiliar alien meat. You know what the worst part is? I said to no one in particular. I think they are actually enjoying this. The medical team arrived at Habitat 17 to find Jake and Priya completely unharmed, well-fed, and offering to share their Varathian roast with anyone who was interested. No one was interested. Most of the medical staff could not stop staring at the fact that these 2 fragile-looking creatures were casually consuming a creature that had, just hours earlier, been classified as a facility-wide existential threat. It tastes like chicken, Priya informed the lead medic cheerfully. You know, if chicken was made of muscle cables and had the texture of really aggressive beef jerky. You sure you do not want some? The medic declined with the kind of polite horror usually reserved for discovering your neighbor is secretly a serial killer. Administrator Tholna called an emergency meeting at 0600 hours. Every department head was there, along with me, Grix, and about a dozen other staff members who had witnessed what was now being called the incident. Everyone looked like they had aged several years overnight, except for Tholna, who looked energized in a way that deeply concerned me. Right, she began, All four arms folded in that way that meant she had made a decision, and the rest of us were going to have to deal with it. Let us address the situation directly. Two humans, armed with nothing but sticks and audacity, successfully hunted and killed a Varathian shredder in close-quarters combat. They did this within 4 minutes of waking up, with no preparation, no warning, and no apparent stress response afterward. Does anyone want to argue that we should continue housing them as standard exhibit specimens? The silence was deafening. Excellent, Tholna continued. Then we are in agreement. Effective immediately, humans are being reclassified from exhibit specimens to consultation partners. We are offering both Jake and Priya positions on our security assessment team, with full station privileges and compensation. Consultation partners? Someone asked weakly. What exactly would they be consulting on? Everything, Tholna said simply. Habitat design, containment protocols, threat assessment, emergency response procedures. It has become abundantly clear that humans have a very different perspective on predator management than the rest of us, and I believe we could learn from it. I raised my hand. Administrator, with respect, are we just going to ignore the fact that they ate the Varathian? They killed it, and then they ate it. That is not normal behavior for a sapient species encountering an unknown organism. Actually, Priya's voice came from the doorway, and everyone turned to see her and Jake standing there, apparently having been invited to this meeting without anyone telling the rest of us. That is extremely normal behavior for humans encountering an unknown organism. Our general problem-solving approach is: 1. Can we eat it? 2. Can we domesticate it? 3. Can we use it to make something else more edible or domesticatable? And 4. If all else fails, can we at least make a decent hat out of it? We did not make a hat, Jake added helpfully. But the hide might be useful for something. We saved it, just in case. Grix made a sound like grinding rocks. You saved the hide. Of the Varathian shredder, the creature that terrorized this facility for 8 hours. Well, yeah, Jake said, like this was obvious. It seemed wasteful to just throw it away. Plus, if you have more of those things, we should probably study the anatomy, figure out weak points, optimal engagement strategies, that kind of thing. And that, right there, was the moment I truly understood what made humans apex predators. It was not strength or speed or natural weapons. It was the absolute refusal to accept that anything was off the menu or beyond their capability to manage. They looked at the galaxy's most dangerous predator and saw a project, a learning opportunity, dinner, and a craft supply. 3 months later, Jake and Priya had revolutionized every single containment protocol at the facility. They introduced something they called environmental enrichment, which apparently means you make the habitats more interesting so the predators do not get bored and start testing the containment fields for weaknesses. They redesigned the feeding schedules based on circadian rhythms and natural hunting patterns. They even suggested we start a breeding program for some of the species, because apparently humans cannot see a population of endangered murder lizards without immediately trying to increase their numbers. The preserve still has 47 apex predator species, but we do not keep humans in the exhibit wing anymore. They have an office, with a coffee maker that Jake built from spare parts and what he called determination. They come to work every day, consult on our most dangerous residents, and occasionally have to be reminded that no, they cannot try to domesticate the Theta-class Void Stalker. No matter how much they insist, it would probably be fine. As for me, I am still a xenozoologist. I still catalog apex predators, but I have had to add a new category to my threat assessment matrix. Right at the top, above all the claws and venom and dimensional phasing abilities, there is now a single line that reads, "Does the species problem solve by asking what if we just ate it?" Because as it turns out, the galaxy's most dangerous predator does not have natural weapons. It does not have armor plating or venom glands or the ability to phase through solid matter. What it has is a brain that looks at every single problem and asks, but have we tried hitting it with a stick? And somehow, terrifyingly, that works more often than it has any right to. The Galactic Apex Predator Preserve now has 47 species in containment, plus 2 humans who wander around freely, occasionally making suggestions like, have you considered that the crystalline mangler might be less aggressive if we gave it something to hunt besides your staff? And this force field setup is inefficient. We could redesign it with about 30% less power consumption and twice the effectiveness. I used to think I worked at a zoo for nightmare fuel. Now I realize I work at a facility where the nightmares are afraid of the consultants. And those consultants are currently arguing about whether the cafeteria's protein synthesizer could be modified to make something they call barbecue sauce. The galaxy was not ready for humans. I am not entirely sure the galaxy will ever be ready for humans, but at least now we know why Earth is classified as a Category 9 death world. It is not because of what lives there, It is because of what survives there. And what survives there does not have the common decency to know when something is supposed to be impossible.